and welcome to an edition of Eye on Matteson. I am your host, Laverne Murphy, and the executive producer of the show, Mayor Sheila Chalmers-Curran. Today, I have a special guest on the show, Village Administrator Mr. Anthony Burton, here to talk about home rule as well as clarify some of the myths behind home rule. So without further ado, thank you so much for coming on Eye on Matteson, Anthony. I think this is your first time actually on the show since it started 4 years ago, so welcome again.
Thank you.
And as I've introduced to our audience, you are the Village Administrator for the Village of Matteson. And for those who may not be familiar with the role of a Village Administrator, can you share with us exactly what is it that the Village Administrator do for the Village of Matteson?
It's fairly simple. The Village Administrator runs the day-to-day operations of the village. My job is to ensure that the residents are getting everything that they need, and then work very closely with all the department heads to make sure that all the departments are running smoothly and that everything that we need is getting done. And then I work closely with the Board of Trustees and the President to make sure that we do all the things we can to make sure residents are getting what they need, including passing ordinance, etc.
Well, great. Well, thank you for kind of wrapping that up. So wanting to know who's running the day-to-day operations for the village and making sure questions are being answered and things of that nature. So great. So you are here today, of course, to talk about home rule, and so what about home rule? How can it be established? How does a municipality go about establishing home rule?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question, Laverne. Most cities and many cities are become home rule because they reach a 25,000 residency mark. If a city makes 25,000 in the state of Illinois, they automatically become home rule. The second option is that residents in the village can pass a referendum to allow the village to become home rule. And that's what we're doing right now. Matteson only has 19,000 residents, as you know, and most of the residents know. But now we believe that home rule will be an advantage to our residents if passed in this upcoming election on June 28th.
Okay, great. And so what are some of the biggest misconceptions of home rule?
Sure. One of the biggest misconceptions is that the Board of Trustees and the mayor is going to raise taxes. It's going to go rogue and start to do things that would affect the residents. One thing that I always think about is that the mayor and the Board of Trustees are residents too. And so the last thing they would ever want to do is to do anything that would affect them and their homes and their families here in the village. So I think it can't be controlled. I think the biggest thing is that they'll raise taxes, but then they will also do things like create transfer stamps, and that they will create all these different ways to create ways of making money on the residents. But that is totally a misconception. As a matter of fact, we have done some things to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay,
great. And I know the Realtors Association, I know they've always opposed municipalities creating home rule. Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, it's interesting. For the first time, we actually met with the Realtor Association. It was kind of a unique method in order for us to ensure that it's a win-win for both the Realtor Association and the Village of Matteson. So we met with them and we asked them to partner with us on this endeavor. And we, in knowing what where the opposition is at, we passed several ordinances to ensure that we don't go against what they want. So one of the things we did is we passed a resolution ensuring that the village will not raise property taxes for 5 years. So we're going to freeze the property taxes at its current rate for 5 years. And then for an additional 5 years, we're going to not go above CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, on taxes for 5 years after that. So for 10 years, basically, we're going to keep our taxes at a low. That proves to the people that we're not going after property taxes, to our residents that we're not going after property taxes. Second thing that we've done is the Village of Matteson has agreed not to create a real estate transfer stamp tax. That will also, one of the things that the Realtor Association goes against, but we ensured them that we will not create one by passing a resolution. Once home rule is passed, we will then pass ordinance, which makes it law. On those different things. And we just want to ensure the residents that our goal is to take benefit of the things that we currently have and not add additional taxes on the residents.
Wow, that's great. And that was well received by the Realtors Association?
It was. And the Realtors Association did like, the fact that we wanted to partner. Unfortunately, they could not take a partnership, but what they did tell us is that they would agree to work with us on this home rule effort.
Wow, well, that's telling to actually have that come from them.
Absolutely.
Especially when it's been their opposing position in the past.
That's right, that's correct.
Great. So, you talk about some of the things and resolutions and ordinance that will be put in place. What is something else that will be put in place immediately once the home rule goes into effect?
Sure. So I mentioned, as mentioned, the ordinances that will be passed. We also will eliminate village stickers for all the residents in town.
Great.
So the village looked at that and agreed to eliminate village stickers. Second thing is that we will work very closely with the Realtor Association again to put together a realtor and homeowner crime-free housing ordinance that we will work directly with the Realtor Association to ensure that we don't go, again, rogue on our residents and hurt the realtors and the brokers in making deals happen. So we will put that in place right away. Next thing we will do is we will look at some things we can do for landlord-tenant issues. So we will definitely dig deep into that, making sure that we look at all because with home rule we can then look at those things a little closer. The last thing, Laverne, is that we will definitely look at how we can improve our infrastructure and our road, streets, et cetera, because home rule will allow us to have the funds necessary to go and do more of our streets, more of our roads, make sure our infrastructure is totally in place. We will attack that right away, and we'll use some of the plans that we've already put in place to make sure that all of our residents are happy once home rule is passed.
Great. So you're kind of clarifying what are some of the benefits for home rule,
Absolutely.
which right now is a little bit restricted as far as having the funding to execute some of the things that you talk about in reference to infrastructure. And then when you talk about village stickers, so why is it that you're able to forego or waive vehicle stickers once home rule is passed versus being able to not having residents pay it now?
Sure. So, the one big thing about the village, and we have a wonderful finance director, Rashid Jones, who's done a great job. We look at the numbers very closely. We make sure that we're not trying to gouge our residents. And the one thing that we realize is that with home rule, we don't need the village stickers. We will be able to fund the village in an adequate way and can eliminate something that's taxing the village residents right now. It's not a very high cost. No, it's not. It's not something that's we're not making an extreme amount of money neither. But we felt like with home rule, we could eliminate that, allow our residents one valuable asset back, which is their capital, and to do some other things they may want to do with those dollars, because with home rule, it's not necessary anymore. So I think that we're really, with looking at the numbers, we'll be fine. But we'll also, one thing I want to make sure residents know is that we will still work with the state of Illinois to ensure that we know every vehicle that's in town. So we will run a database through the state of Illinois to ensure that we document every vehicle in town. So it won't be as if we don't know vehicles are in town. So we will still continue to make sure we know what cars are owned by each home.
Wow, that's good, and thank you so much for clarifying that, because that comes to safety too.
Absolutely.
Making sure that we keep the community safe by knowing who's in the community, right?
That's
so
correct.
thank you for sharing that information. Yeah. And vehicle stickers, that's a bonus, for residents, not having to pay that fee, which is occurred like every year for a resident.
May I clarify too, the village will also ensure that we will eliminate several different taxes that are on residents currently. So we will move forward with eliminating the business district tax, and we will also move forward with eliminating the eat-in tax. If home rule is passed, it will allow us to, again, just as we just spoke about, we looked at our finance, looked at our numbers, and those are two things that we can do if we can pass home rule. Now, we will create the home rule tax, but it will eliminate the other two taxes that are on our residents and visitors. I want to make sure I say that too, because a lot of times when we forget that 80% of the people who shop in Matteson don't live in Matteson. And so the bigger thing that we'll do, of course, will be creating that home rule tax.
Right, as a replacement.
As a replacement, that's correct.
Great, great. Thank you for sharing that as well. And so also, what are some of the things you touched on, infrastructure, things that the village will be doing to improve the community as a whole by having home rule in place? You touched on, vehicle stickers, infrastructure, crime-free housing. Explain that a little bit more when you talk about crime-free housing. What exactly is crime-free housing? We figured no crime in the housing, right? That's what you would actually go to. But if you could just expound on that a little bit.
So, you know, Laverne, I will just say it this way. We're going to work very closely with the Realtor Association to ensure that we put together ordinances that have teeth to them, to ensure that residents are safe in their homes, and then when there's issues, that we're able to deal with those issues faster in a more efficient manner. As a non-home rule community, we have limitations, as you know. But being a home rule community, we can put more teeth into it and to ensure that things are done in a more efficient and a fast-paced manner. But we are going to work with the Realtor Association. I want to keep stressing that because I think that we want to make sure it's a win-win with both the Realtor Association and the residents in the Village of Matteson. So we're going to really work together to make sure we put together a comprehensive plan on eliminating crime in our community and anything that may happen in our community, and be able to rid it faster than what we have in the past without home rule.
Wow, you know, and that's key, you know, because the number one thing I'm sure everyone wants to feel safe.
Absolutely.
In their home, within their community, and so that's great that the village is putting forth a plan in place to ensure that that is done.
That's correct. That's correct.
With home rule in place.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Well, great. Well, you know, I know there's a lot more information about home rule, and you shared quite a few today, especially, you know, touching on and clarifying the myths behind home rule as far as property taxes and those things being raised. Where can individuals find more information on home rule if they just wanted to kind of comb through some information for themselves and just find out more facts?
If any resident wants to find more information about home rule, they would have to go to our website and go to www.homerule.villageofmatteson.org.
Okay, great. And then just, it's on our main page?
Information is out there, that's
page.
correct. And you know, we will be having more information out there also. On June 2nd, we will be having a town hall meeting. And at that town hall meeting, we will discuss, you know, when needed, information on home rule. We will also be visiting many of the homeowners associations to ensure that we put this information out and give this information to all the homeowners associations.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that residents know that we're going to make sure this information is there and that they can take advantage of it.
Right.
And understand it better.
Absolutely. And also, too, what's the most important thing, right? Because it is a referendum, so therefore it has to be voted in.
That's
and
correct.
so when is that voting date?
Thank you, Laverne. Early voting starts on June 14th and it goes through June 27th. And it will be here in our town at the Matteson Community Center. And then on June 28th is the actual election day, and everyone will go to their normal polls to vote here in the Village of Matteson.
Okay, great. Well, Mr. Burton, thank you so much for coming on Eye on Matteson for the first time. You're a pro at this, so you know you should come back more often.
Will do.
All right,
Thank
we'll
you.
love to have you. There you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in Eye on Matteson. Again, I am your host, Laverne Murphy. Hopefully you found out more information about home rule that you may not have been aware of before. And please visit the Village of Matteson website at www.villageofmatteson.org for more information. Thank you so much for joining Eye on Matteson. Until next time, please take care, stay informed.